Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T, and I hope you guys are all well and safe and happy. Debbie Collier's family held a memorial for her on Monday, October 24th, with no answers from law enforcement as to who is responsible for Collier's death. The family members must be feeling uneasy around each other. At least you'd think they would. I'm wondering if some of them are looking at others with suspicion. I'm also curious to know if Amanda Bearden brought her boyfriend, Andrew Geigerich, to this memorial service. And if so, how was Geigerich greeted by Debbie Collier's husband, Steve, and by her son, Jeffrey? Andrew Geigerich wrote some disparaging comments about Jeffrey Bearden last week in my comments. This hinted to me that Jeffrey may not be feeling all warm and welcoming toward Andrew, especially knowing that in 2021, Amanda accused Geigerich of causing that nasty bruise on her shoulder and of breaking windows and other property at the apartment Amanda sometimes shares with him. Could Jeffrey maybe think it's possible that Andrew could be behind his mother's death? Who knows? But it definitely said to me that Jeffrey probably isn't treating Andrew the way Andrew wants to be treated. I'm also wondering if Debbie's sister, Diane Shirley, traveled from Alabama to attend the service and what she's thinking at this point about her sister's death. Shirley sounded very concerned in her 911 call, and she also made it clear that her niece, Amanda Bearden, wasn't returning her phone calls in a timely manner and sharing all the information she could about Debbie's disappearance. I'm sorry to say that I don't have the answers to any of these questions. I wish I could speak to Jeffrey Bearden. I think he could clear so much of this stuff up, but we know he has bigger fish to fry right now in the way of grieving his mother and in trying to ensure that Debbie gets justice. Personally, I don't think Jeffrey Bearden could in any way be connected to the crime, so I see him as the one who's having to question everyone around him. His sister, her boyfriend, and maybe even his stepdad, Steve. I personally do not believe Steve's involved, but it's possible Jeffrey is wondering because a lot of other people are wondering. Last Friday, the local radio station WCHM in Clarksville, Georgia, reported that an unnamed ranking member of the Habersham County Sheriff's Office said it would be a good assumption that the detectives were no longer focused on Debbie Collier's immediate family in connection with the crime. Then, in an article I read on foxnews.com Monday night, it said that Georgia investigators have begun exploring the possibility that Debbie Collier's death may not have been due to the actions of another person, but may have been due to an accident or to Debbie Collier unaliving herself. The article did not use the term unaliving, by the way. I'm trying to keep YouTube happy. The article also said that according to two sources with knowledge of the investigation, detectives have no evidence so far linking several key people within Debbie Collier's circle, including her husband Steve, her daughter Amanda, and Amanda's boyfriend, Andrew Geigerich, to locations anywhere near the crime scene between Debbie's disappearance on Saturday, September 10th, and the discovery of her remains on Sunday, September 11th. By the way, this article also confirmed that Debbie Collier did indeed stop at the Chick-fil-A restaurant in Commerce, Georgia, before traveling to the Family Dollar store in Clayton. some people were questioning the validity of this information. Collier was captured on video ordering a meal there, so let's put that one to bed. The Fox News article also stated that evidence at the crime scene suggests that Collier's death could have been accidental or a situation where Debbie unalived herself. Here's what the article said about Debbie and the crime scene, and I quote, "When Fox News Digital visited the scene earlier this month, it was evident that at the heart of the burn marks, there were no signs that a wood-fueled fire had been constructed, although several items she was carrying were found scorched on the ground, including a blue tarp she had just purchased and small remnants of the Georgia Bulldogs jersey she was last seen wearing," end quote. One detail the Fox News reporter noted in this article that I had not yet heard was that Debbie Collier had soot in her nostrils. I'm no soot expert, but wouldn't someone close to a fire have soot in their nostrils, regardless of whether they started the fire themselves or someone else started it for them and placed them near it? I'm not sure if this soot information is one of the pieces of evidence that is leading investigators to question whether Debbie herself was responsible for whatever led to her death. The article also brought up the marks on Debbie's stomach, as well as her being found clutching a small tree with her right hand. In my humble opinion, the marks on her stomach point to someone else going out of their way to inflict pain on her. To me, that seems more believable than Debbie using that small torch lighter she bought at the Family Dollar store to inflict those wounds on herself. I do agree that Debbie clutching a small tree with her right hand is a strange action, but we have to remember that she was found down in embankment. Perhaps she slid down the embankment trying to get away from the perpetrator. Of course, she could have just as easily slid down the embankment all by herself and then reached out for that tree trunk to stop herself. Criminal profiler and psychoanalyst John Kelly was quoted in the article as saying there are a few questions he'd still like to have answered. They are, and I quote, "Why'd she drive up there? Why try to pull herself up after she'd fallen down a hill in the woods? She looked like she was getting ready to go tailgating, dressed up to have fun, not to unalive herself," end quote. Kelly didn't use the term unalive, by the way. I'm with John Kelly. I have more questions, and I'm not quick to accept that this crime was an accident or that Debbie Collier did this to herself. I know those are possibilities, but they aren't the simplest explanations for how Debbie was found. I just hope the investigators don't give up too quickly and rule this one of those two things. We heard early on that this was personal and deliberate. To me, that means that someone close to Debbie had a vendetta against her and wanted to literally destroy her. It definitely does not mean to me, at least, that it was so personal and deliberate that Debbie Collier did it to herself. When I heard what this high-ranking person in the Habersham Sheriff's Office said, I immediately thought of Rebecca Zahau. She was the Burmese-American woman who was found deceased at the Spreckels Mansion on Coronado Island in California. Prior to Zahau's death, she'd been tasked with babysitting her wealthy boyfriend's 6-year-old son. Tragically, the little boy fell from a staircase in the mansion and later died as a result of his injuries. Zahau's death was highly suspicious, and yet the police concluded that she'd done it to herself. I can't describe all the details of Rebecca's death here on YouTube. It's that crazy and insane, but look it up if you're not aware of it. I hope the investigators in the Debbie Collier case don't give in to the accident or unaliving theories until they're 100% certain that it was not the act of a vengeful friend or relative. Once again, the Debbie Collier case leads to more questions than answers. If you have any information on the Collier case, you're asked to contact the Habersham Sheriff's investigators, Cale Garrison or George Kaysen, at 706-839-0559 or 706-839-0560 respectively. I'm including a link to the Fox News article in the description. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories, hey, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not yet subscribed, and leave me a comment. Let's talk about this case.